All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of Property Pro Tips. Today we have the very fortunate opportunity to have Mr. Matt Williams, the principal of Williams Real Estate Advisors, with us today. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you, my friend. I know your time is valuable. Just real quick, I want to read your bio for those who don't know you, because I know you're pretty famous here in LA. Along with being the principal of Williams Real Estate Advisors, which is a full-service property management company managing over $240 million in multifamily assets across Southern California, he's also on the board of directors for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. That's AAGLA, for those of you who don't know. While attending college, what college did you go to, Matt?
Pepperdine.
I was hoping for a fight on there, but maybe not. While attending college, he joined the Capmark Financial Group as an analyst, analyzing $350 million of multifamily loan requests for major lenders like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. He later transitioned to an apartment brokerage with Sperry Van Ness and started his company, Williams Real Estate Advisors Incorporated, which now manages 170 properties. As I said, Matt serves on the board of directors for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles and is the 2025 board president. Congrats on that again. Outside of work, Matt volunteers to feed the homeless on Skid Row and conducts Christian services at the local jail. Good on you. Good on you, Matt. Do you work with the Union Rescue Mission downtown at all?
No. I've been there, but in front of the Midnight Missions where I go feed.
Okay, got it. I used to volunteer at the Union Rescue Mission, which is really right by Midnight, I think the Midnight Mission, if I remember correctly, right?
I think Union
nearby
is off of the 101 when it comes in. The Midnight Mission's on 6th and San Julian.
Got it. Okay.
They might have something in Skid Row. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And Union Rescues, they used to be in the dead center of Skid Row. It was like right there. You walked off Skid Row and right on in. They had to have some pretty good creative security in that place.
Oh, yes.
You know it was a mission.
Level 5 yard is what they used to call those streets. Level 5 yard.
Level 5 yard.
That means it's a very dangerous place to be. Not a level 2,
really?
level 5. That's the maximum yard at a state penitentiary.
Wow, that's like the max security. Yeah, max security prison, right? If you're going to level 5, let's talk about that. Your Christian service at the local jail. That's a very interesting side point there. But before that, let's just dive right in with the questions. If you could share a little bit about your background and how you started your property management journey.
That's a great question. I was studying to go to law school, taking the LSATs. And I decided that I did not want to commit myself to reading and writing for 3.5 years of legal paperwork. Yeah, I know. But my dad was an attorney, so I thought, maybe I'll do that. But the truth was, I just sort of rolled out of bed one morning and was either going to go back into brokerage or property management, met someone at a Starbucks, and we decided to start a management company. He dropped out of the business within a month. Didn't want to stick. He was the broker, so I had to get my broker's license. And I remember driving out to Sacramento because that was the earliest I could get my broker's test.
Just sit for it, right?
Sit for it and get it done. Yeah. So it was more just it was either brokerage and being in finance, I always thought cash flow was king. So rather than living pop to pop in terms of brokerage, I decided to actually have a cash flowing business. Plus, brokerage a lot of brokerage is negotiation, but it isn't operations based for multifamily. The idea of building a business that could supplement, say, syndication or development, the skill sets in property management seemed to line up with that long-term vision one day.
What do you like the most about property management? What's the one thing?
I love the people. It really is a business of psychology. It's a business of problem solving, critical thinking. It isn't rocket science, but you really are putting a camel through the eye of a needle, if I can use that example, when you with your owners and your tenants in the city.
We can quote some Jesus of Nazareth here.
There you go.
It is the people, right? And I've asked that question to lots of people in my own org and outside of it, and it always comes down to problem solving with the people, right? That's the fun part. People think we're crazy, but it's fun, right? You get to help people in a real way.
It is. You're sending a owner distribution for an elderly woman that won't be able to make her payment at a retirement facility. You're helping
Wow.
a you're helping someone that is not conflict oriented but entrepreneurial and just ended up owning apartments because of their entrepreneurial spirit. And the old days of a handshake where there was this sort of mutual understanding has sort of dissipated, and you need someone to bridge that gap. And it takes a certain type of resolve to be able to do that. And that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it special.
100%. Before you went into property management, you mentioned that you were working in finance, correct? Correct.
Yes, yes.
What was the biggest takeaway from analyzing 350 billion worth of multifamily loan requests? I mean, that has to be, yeah.
And I shortened the numbers. It's 350 million is what I wrote, but
Yeah,
I
350 million, right?
that's not including office, industrial, and retail. I can still underwrite a triple net retail portfolio. I can still underwrite life company business. Those skills and those traits were not lost. And it
Right.
has impacted my business. Some of the bigger takeaways is when we enter into this business, we don't understand the way the cash flow moves through the business. We understand the P&L. We learn if you don't know, interest is not a P&L item. I mean, excuse me, interest is a P&L item, but principal payment is not. So when you're sending these owner reports and you're doing your stuff at the end of the year, these are things that property managers sort of learn over time as they engage in the business. But being a commercial mortgage banker has a slightly different impact. Not only do we understand how cash flow works, we understand how financing works. I understand how the clients over leverage. They buy a 4 unit building and their loan is $12,000, but on a 120 DCR, debt service coverage ratio, they would only be at $8,000 a month in monthly payment.
Mm-hmm.
$12,000 might be a 75% LTV. But there are certain things that allow me to know, oh, you have a loan. Are you impounding for taxes and insurance? These are little things that make a big difference when you're talking to an owner. And I won business when I was cold calling and I first started. Oh, who's your lender? What type of loan do you have? Do you have yield maintenance? Do you have defeasance? Do you have step downs? And for a mom and pop
They're
owner,
like what?
that's oh, okay. He's talking a little technical, and there's an institution, but our mom and pop owners don't understand that I actually have an institutional understanding of finance. We had at the company I worked at, there was a $12 billion balance sheet. We had a $12 billion balance sheet, and we had about a $12 billion servicing portfolio.
Wow.
So they would make a lot of money on servicing on the back end, and being a commercial mortgage banker, not broker, meant that the brokers would come to us and then we could send it to the life company or internal bridge debt lender.
How did your transition from commercial mortgage banking to apartment brokerage shape your approach to real estate?
First off, the transition. I was 23 in '08.
Wow.
Two dates that have some significance. I was in production selling $3 million mortgages at 23 when 2008 happened, and we were selective on deals.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So you were there. You were there, man.
I was there. I was there. I was that millennial stuck in the '08. And if I was
Wow.
out 2 years earlier, I would have been a rock star heading into the business. So I decided that I wanted to learn brokerage. I wanted to just fill out my skill set. Went and worked with a broker, Kitty Wallace at Sperry Van Ness at the time.
Yeah, she's
And
with CBRE now, right? CBRE?
Colliers or CBRE?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And did 150 cold calls a day, started understanding that
Wow.
brokerage was different than
100.
finance.
Hold on. 150 is that is. I mean, I hear 80, I hear 100. 100's like, yeah, I'm doing 100, and yeah, 150. You putting in 14s? Just running 14-hour days? That's
No, I was very efficient. I was very
Yeah,
efficient.
that's
I
great.
had everything
Cool.
down. I started getting some pain in my elbow, so I changed the way I'd call, because it's all mechanism, how you move
Yeah,
your
right.
hand, right? This motion wasn't working. One little change fixed everything, and I could go 50 minutes and take a 10-minute break, 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. And this is sort of a funny story, a bit of a sad story, but I was cold calling on a Friday, cold called someone, hey, is so-and-so there? No, sorry, they passed away. Oh, okay. Cold called again. Hey, hour later, cold call. Hey, is so-and-so there? Oh, no, they passed away. Okay. Cold called another hour, picked up the phone. So, no, they passed away. I said, I'm done. I'm done. I'm the angel of death today.
Three different groups.
Cool. I'm not going to hit 150. I am done. I am not. I do not want to make.
Wow. You're just like killing off.
The
my calls
probability
are
of
cursed.
3 dead people in one day.
And 3 separate groups of buyers or owners, I'm assuming. It wasn't the same guy.
That's right.
Connected.
Around. Yeah. So.
Wow. So then after that, what inspired you to start Williams Real Estate?
I went into development with the family. Just did that for a couple months, and it wasn't the right fit for me.
Like real estate development?
Real estate development. Yep. Skilled nursing facilities, things like that. Engaged with municipalities and permitting and architects. But at the end of the day, that wasn't really where my heart was. And basically, like I said, I just rolled out of bed one morning. I was either going to go back to brokerage or do something, and discovered property management and wanted to find a way so tenants could pay their rent online. And that's what we ended up doing. And
awesome.
grew, yeah. 3 years. Our growth has been fairly good. 14, 15 years in business now, and just under 1,200 units.
Yeah, starting from, it sounds like
nothing.
Zero. Yeah, dust.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah, all from cold calling. Wow, that's impressive. A lot of times someone's handed a portfolio or take over the family. Starting a property management company from dust is one of the hardest business models, I think, to start from dust, in my humble opinion. Only because I've experienced that myself and I know the pain.
I mean,
I didn't see a paycheck for
3 years.
I was going to say 3 years. That was about it. Yeah, it took about 3 years before I got that first $5.
I mean, it really is. I had my yuppie car. I remember I went to buy a Ford Focus because I realized I didn't want to service my Audi A4, and it was $800 14 years ago to get it serviced. And I said, wow. No. So I went and bought a Ford Focus with the crank windows, stick shift, paid $14,000. And I drove off the lot, drove it around the corner, said, I want my old car back. And they said, no, you can't have it back, Matt. You can't take it back. And I said, okay. But that car, I did 3,000 miles a month commuting back and forth from Monrovia because I had to relocate when I started my business to save money. I would commute from Santa Monica. I relocated back home, lived at home for about 18 months, and would commute from Monrovia to San 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. And that little Ford Focus really, really did me good.
Nice. I mean, smart move, right? Low maintenance, no payment.
No maintenance, no payment. And that car was 5 years. I had that while I was building the business. Let me tell you, trying to date in LA with the Ford Focus, that was interesting.
I mean, I understand. When I graduated from USC, I had like a 1984 like Acura Integra. I called it the nuclear roller skate, and that thing was like, and it was. I mean, it worked, and it was just you pushed on the gas, and it went wee, and just started to get faster, even if you stomped on it. It was a 4-banger,
Well, mine was a stick shift. I made sure to get a stick shift, though, because I knew that I didn't have enough horsepower to be aggressive.
Right.
But I could always downshift.
You could always slow down.
I could downshift and accelerate. So if I needed that little extra bit of pump, boom, second gear, third gear, fifth, fourth, boom.
See, you were smarter than me. Mine was auto. So it was just stop and nothing happens. And that was the same thing. Trying to date in LA in one of those. I'm like, I'll pick you up in a cab.
Back when you could get a cab. Before Uber.
Right, 1-800 taxi, right?
Right. Here's $20. It didn't go well. Get a ride home.
That's right.
Never did that, by the way. Never did that.
It's like, hey, we're going. Hey, we're going to be safe. We're going to go out. And I don't even like to drive with one drink. I'll pick you up in a cab. That's how I got around it.
Oh man. I
Yeah,
hope
so
I answered that question.
you absolutely did. So, what was your inspiration, Matt, for to start Williams Real Estate Advisor? What was that, and how has it evolved since you started?
It's basically I viewed the business as a character building. Not that I
Character
have
building.
poor character or bad character, but I really viewed it as it's a business of stewardship. It's a business of responsibility. And I built it because I wanted to understand operations. I wanted to, I believed that technology was the future, wanted to find a way to pay rents online. And I just loved working and I love people. And it just seemed like a no-brainer to me. In terms of that was the micro, in terms of the macro, I believe there's so much opportunity in real estate that I always believe that I could add value to clients down the line in terms of giving them opportunities to grow their own personal portfolios,
Mm.
and working along those lines. That isn't something I've quite realized yet, but I still believe in that. A lot of owners are entrepreneurs at their core, and maybe I'll touch on that in terms of motivation for AGLA and why I
Good.
engage in that.
And,
But I love the I love the entrepreneurial spirit of the property owner.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because properties are their own little companies. People, I don't know if enough people understand that outside the real estate industry, every building is its own LLC usually, which makes
that's
it
right.
its own company. It has its own accounts receivable, its accounts payable, vendors, bills, problems, and it has its and the tenants are your customers. Like the residents are the customers of the company, right?
Absolutely
And
right.
it's and when you think of it like that, it's like as a property management company, we're actually managing hundreds of companies. It's a very different perspective shift. So and so, how, speaking of AGLA, as you said, how is your role with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles, being on the board, director, being on the board of directors, how's it influenced your property management perspective?
I feel it's actually reversed. Being a
Reverse.
property manager influences me as the president of AGLA.
I see.
As the president of being president of AGLA doesn't change, hasn't changed me in terms of operations. I, as an operator, have a unique perspective that if you're a mom and pop owner or you own your own portfolio, you're advocating one angle. I have 90 different owners with 90 different perspectives and 90 different ways to solve problems. So as the president of AGLA, I can sit and see how policy would impact my mom and pop and how policy is impacting the owners, our larger clients with over 100, 150 units. And that allows me to talk in a way that is direct, because succinct,
Mhm.
and that allows me when I talk to politicians, talk to my board, talk to people in the industry to really explain, hey, 10 cents of every dollar goes into our owners' pockets. When you have a mortgage, that is, that's from NAA. Let me share with you what this looks like. When we have 10 cents of every dollar going into our owners' pockets, and you pass this law, or you make us go through all these loopholes, there's no profit to run this business. The laws you pass can bring a legal liability of $20,000. And when you have a 6 unit building and you're only making $1,000 a month, that's $72,000 a year. 6 units times 1,000, right? At times 12, 72,000. And an eviction can cost $20,000. I always ask the politician or the assistant, would you be willing to take a renter that had a $20,000 liability and give up over 25% of your take home revenue or your top line revenue before taxes? And it clicks. And politicians will sit. I was at Upper West here in Santa Monica, and I bumped into one of our progressive politicians that I've known for years, right when the fire started, and we had a great conversation. Very concerned about landlords being
Mhm.
aggressive with tenants. I said, no, that you don't have to worry. You have existing policies in place. I was speaking to the politician, and
Mhm.
because I'm an operator, I'm able to explain multiple perspectives. I said, you already have an anti-harassment ordinance.
Mhm.
You can reiterate that. The state already has an anti-gouging law. You can utilize that. And he said, can you send me, AGLA had already put out an alert. And he said, can you share with me what you have? I said, yeah, let me send you the alert. Santa Monica was the first municipality, first city to send out an accurate reflection of the state law, which defined what anti-gouging was. If you had an ad up, you can't go 10% above the ad before the fire. If you don't have an ad up and you have a vacancy, you can be 160% of the HUD rent for that zip code. And so, Santa Monica was really good at that. But that's something as an operator with 180 buildings across all of Los Angeles, as president of AAGLA, I don't talk red, I don't talk blue. I talk fundamental principles that impact our real shop local owners.
100%.
I will say that one of my most enjoyable experiences is meeting our clients, our members, and one of my members at my when they at my inauguration came and said, "I was working at my building today," and you could see his hands, and you could see he'd worked at his buildings, and you could see the calluses on his hands. His father
Right.
worked; he worked on it, and that is something that is very, very precious to see and appreciate as the president of AGLA. So I don't think it's changed me as an operator. I think as an operator, I'm more effective as the president.
Politician you're speaking with, where you don't have to name them, but where did they like? Were they council? Were they city council?
City
Oh,
council.
okay. Okay.
I mean, he's a great guy. Really like him. Met him over the years. He's a great guy. I really like him, person to person. I don't agree with every policy that someone might put out, but I mean, I'm always an open voice, and I'll always share constructive feedback, not criticism.
So speaking a little bit more about AGLA as we spoke a little bit before the show, there are a lot of acronyms out there. We got the NAA, with National Apartment Association. We got the AOA, different chapters of the AOA, and then we have the AGLA, and we also have the CAA. Could you provide us a little bit of clarity for those who aren't familiar with what the difference between like AGLA and CAA, NAA, AOA, and how does someone, as an owner, how do we decide who to be a membership of? And you can be self-serving here. By all means, sell it.
Well, let me be
Thank you.
objective.
Please.
Let me be objective. So NAA is the parent organization of the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles.
Okay.
We have lobbying. NAA does lobbying up in Washington, over in Washington, D.C. NAA is very active with multiple chapters, and NAA is really the lifeblood of advocacy on the national level. NAA's connections and ability to interact, do forums, share ideas, it's really has a broad reach. AOA, and so AGLA would be obviously associated with NAA. AOA is the Apartment Owners Association, a good firm, does good work for mom and pop owners. That is a for-profit business. AGLA is in spirit nonprofit, but for
Hmm.
operating reasons, we have to run it a certain way. But AOA is run by an individual who runs the business, runs the company, and does really good work in terms of owners. So we've had lawsuits with them. We've co-sponsored lawsuits. So I would say they're a good organization. The difference is the advocacy on the national level,
I
the
see.
breadth of the advocacy, the pool from knowledge all around. That is the nuance.
Mm.
The creator of AOA has done very good work for those in Los Angeles and California, where their reach is. So anybody who's championing for clients, I can't say anything negative about. So those are just two nuances
Okay.
to highlight. CAA is more California based. Some of these organizations take the larger owners. AGLA, I like to say, is blessed because we have such a wide spectrum of small mom and pops to large clients. And the truth is it's a business. And as a business, we do advocacy. We do advocacy across the board. So we do advocacy for the large, the small. Our issues are the same whether you're large and small. The only nuance is that larger owners have more income to offset the new laws
Right.
that are in place. And so what's going to happen is they're going to push to an institutional fill. And like anything, once you get an institutional built, legislators actually change the way they approach legislation.
How
Um,
so?
well, when you have smaller mom and pops, you have the
Interesting.
voice is more scattered.
Right. It's
When
not unified, right?
yeah, but when you start having industry market makers who have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 units, and you have a consolidation, that those revenue dollars can now be focused politically and
Right.
strategically. Because if you have 1,000 units across, in our case, we have 1,200 units across 90 different owners, 180 buildings, advocacy is more dispersed.
Right.
The ability to advocate for a 1,000 unit owner to directly advocate is a lot stronger than a 6 unit owner. So I think that legislatively there's a lot of wiggle room right now for legislators, but as they keep pushing small mom and pops out of this market, there's going to be consolidation, and I think we're going to have some real legislating in this space is going to become more difficult because the dollars are going to be more concise. You're going to get more dollars because bigger businesses will better focus than the most small mom and pop.
Which sounds like a double-edged sword in a sense, but less. I mean, the bigger hammer we have to defend ourselves with, the consolidation sounds like it gives us a more focused approach to being able to defend or attack these slew of laws coming out of state, county, city.
Basically going to become operated. We're going to be like pools, and you're going to need to own so many units to offset the risk tied to ownership in LA, in the state of California. So that's
Mhm.
really the big problem. And that's sort of macro, big picture,
Mhm.
being a visionary, being a futurist, if I can use those terms. Those are the big issues facing our industry moving forward. On the micro level, the mom and pop owners, every owner in this business is entrepreneurial. Not every owner is institutional.
Right.
And so the true entrepreneurial spirit of the mom and pop is why they don't walk away. Entrepreneurs will always find a way to thrive. We're that little plant that grows in Death Valley.
That's a
That is that
great
is the
analogy.
miracle. That is the miracle of the mom and pop. And our problem is our legislators think that all our mom and pops don't have mortgages anymore, don't have any mortgages. But the truth is, every mom and pop, if you buy a building this day, has a mortgage. Can you send your kids to school without a loan? No. Can you buy a car without a loan? No. I mean, they're even microfinancing on what, Clama or Klarma or whatever. There's
Yeah, something like that, right?
right? Like, so the problem is prices are so high on things that you can't buy anything. And a lot of our legislators still think that we have mom and pops who took the time to pay down their mortgages and they get penalized because of it.
And they're sitting on a mountain of money, and right, they're not.
They paid their debt, and this is their retirement.
Right.
Um, so I say if that's the case, then everybody who's paid down their car debt should be charged extra. Everybody who's paid their college loans off we should find a way to charge them more in taxes. That's the faulty logic that I believe is still being used by our legislators, and that needs to be changed. And it's just really communicating. If you get rid of rents or you institutionalize apartment buildings, how are you going to pay for school teachers?
Right.
Who's going to pay our plumbers or electricians? One of the largest property owners in LA is the Housing Authority, and they face all the same issues small mom and pops face.
They're bound to their own rules.
The difference is they have legal in-house, and they're able to get economies of scale on legal because they're so large. Mom and
That
pops can't do that.
100% right. It's you can't fight City Hall, and they're not going to fight themselves. Even if they do, they have the backing of the city attorney, right?
That's right. That's right.
And so, with speaking to the mom and pop market, or even the non-mom and pop market, what is like the top three key benefits for becoming a member of AGLA for the owners or property management companies?
Advocacy, 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 advocacy. Our board advocates in ways our members don't even know about. I was at a meeting in
Right.
one of those ways. My apologies. It's going to ding every time I every time I get a text message. And the joys of property management is you always got a text message
You
coming.
always get text messages.
You always do that, and you put it on airplane mode. The advantage is advocacy. Number one, our forms. People don't realize this, but because we're advocating continuously,
Mhm.
we advocate on the state level, we advocate on the federal level, we're constantly advocating. Our forms take into account the change that's
Mhm.
happening in the legislature. We know the nuance because our state rep sends the bills ahead of time. We're able to see what's happening ahead of time. When our council is reviewing the bills and the proposals and giving us advice, they can see that and incorporate it into our leasing documents. When we
Yes.
put together forms to be compliant on state issues, those forms or city issues, those forms have been reviewed not only on our law, but through our lobbyists. Well, not viewed, but not only has it gone through a lobbying process, it then gets discussed by the appropriate board members. It then gets sent to legal, and legal can incorporate these pieces into our forms. So there's advocacy, there's documentation based off review of what's actually passing in real time. There's engaging in who is filling these council seats. So there's the lobbying, there's the politicking, obviously, of it, the politics, and really focusing on who gets voted in and who doesn't. And that's where we need the money. We could have
Right.
won some races with more members who would have given more money. We could have won races. And that
Eh,
is really, really important. And the problem right now is we have professional lobbyists, professional tenants who don't even live in cities going city council to city council. So why AGLA? Because we don't live in a business friendly environment in California.
No, we don't.
And AGLA is your champion. As a organization that is member centric, where revenues that come in go into fighting, that's what AGLA does. And that is one of the main reasons. If you want to fight, be a member of AGLA. Give us your dollars. We need them for advocacy, for litigation, for our lobbyist up in DC, for our lobbyist in LA. We need your dollars because we're trying to do better. We're trying to do better for our members. We're fighting for our members, not do better. We are doing better for our members, and we need your dollars to enhance what we're already doing.
And I think that's very key, Matt. What you say with it is the advocacy, and it's not. I mean, because you are a pseudo nonprofit, you don't have the marketing dollars to be on social media all over the place and out there in front of everybody. So, what is it that you would say the type of advocacy? Because, for instance, Prop 33, we won, right?
Yeah.
You guys were a big part of that. I know Tom Bannon up in CAA was a big part of that, and that was huge. And that was one of the first times personally was that ever even put signs out, because I'm usually not very political, but that was not politics. That was a policy, and that was going to destroy the industry. And we all united, and that message got out because it was complex. I'm like, what's going on here? just no on 33 if you want to save your real estate anything. And we all came together, and that worked by a lot. So how does that? One, I'd like to know how do you and the CAA work together? And if owners were to choose, do you choose both to be part of, or do you choose one over the other, or does it matter? And two, what can we do on the local level to help you with the advocacy? Aside from being a member, obviously, but is there anything else?
I can't speak to CAA because I wouldn't know enough about them.
So they're separate. You and
Yeah,
the CAA are completely separate.
We're separate. So CAA, I in terms of what I could say is we have over 300,000 units, at least 8 units and up in Los Angeles alone. We have over 300,000 plus units, units and up in the Valley.
As members.
No. We have 350,000 members. I'm just giving you the spectrum. We have 350,000 units, excuse me, under representation.
Got it.
I'm just giving you the spectrum of how big this market is, how many units are in the market. I'm just talking 8 units and up. And that's
say that one more time, Matt. Just to clarify,
300,000 units. There are over 8 units and up There are over 300,000 plus units, at least in the Los Angeles area. That's not including
Wow.
South Bay. That's not including Long Beach. It's not including, right? In the Valley, there's over 300 units. I mean, I'm going back to my brokerage days, but that's what impressed me. If you look at the largest REIT in the US, they have what? Aimco has what, 20,000?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. You're right. And I might be off, Aimco, if I'm short selling you, my apologies. But, when you look at the largest REIT in the US, they only have like 20, 30,000 units. That's a tenth of just the market in the greater Los Angeles area, not including South Bay, Long Beach, San Gabriel Valley, the valley up north, right? 8 units and up. So when you think of advocacy in coming in, their CAA AGLA is really for owners that want their dollars to not just impact in California, but
That's
want
a
their
good
dollars
point.
to impact nationally. Your dollars impact locally when we try and find legislators. They impact on the state level when we try and find city councilmen locally, state level for legislators, and on the national level, the dues go for all the advocacy in Washington, D.C. And it helps. And I don't believe that other organizations have that ability to have an impact local, state, and national. That's why you join AGLA. You
Mm,
join AGLA because you've got the full spectrum
that
of,
makes
of
sense.
what you can do. And your dollars, and you might say, oh, I'm a 6 unit, I only have 6 units. Yeah, but your units help in your local community, at the state, and at the national level.
Tell me what can you explain what is like one of the most recent wins Agla's had for aside from Prop 33 and 34 that we're called that state of California win, right? But local wins. What are a couple of things that you guys have fought against? Because a lot of times we don't even know these battles are sometimes fought with staff before they even hit the council floor. And I just know that from being in these kinds of things, and owners don't even know what they don't know, right?
Pet bill, the pet
Again,
bill at the state level, or the pet bill that was coming down at the state level, you would never know about it. They were going to mandate pets, and
they're going to mandate that allow pets. I
every
didn't hear
unit
about
has,
that.
yeah, yeah, we've won that one. So that was a big one. The
When was this?
This was last legislative season. So
Oh wow.
that was a good one. It may come back, it may not, but that
They're going
was
to
a
legislate that owners must take pets and not charge a deposit or something like that. Oh
well, we're
man, so I
capped
didn't
at
even,
1%. We're capped at 1 month, so you can't do it anyways. We're capped at 1 month security deposit
right.
on the operation, so there's no pet deposit. So that was the one, and I remember being up in Sacramento advocating for it myself, and some of the arguments we had to make. So that was very unique in terms of
Yes.
that. That's a win you don't see. There's some other
No.
things that we're doing behind the scenes that are that I have to say I'm really proud of. AGLA has done. Not to share too much, but we have, there are inklings of bringing lawsuits in line with what Thomas said would be Supreme Court Justice Thomas said would be heard in front of the Supreme Court. It's been
Anti-rent control. Rent control being unconstitutional.
AGLA's been very active in trying to find something that fits that box. And I can say with much pride, we 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 believe we found a few owners that fit that box. And it
Thank
was hard.
God.
See, it was hard. It
Honestly.
wasn't me. I can't take credit for it. That's Dan Eukelson. Dan does a lot behind the scenes for our members that I'm very proud of. And sometimes he doesn't get the credit, or he doesn't get it because they don't know about it. As
Right. Right. Let's
instrumental,
get
but
him on the next podcast here.
you want him on, but he's done yeoman's work on this lawsuit. And there was a win up in San Francisco, I believe, in terms of something to do with rent delays. Like we
Rent
haven't,
delays.
like in the city of LA, you have to have more dollars. You have to hit the HUD amount
Mhm.
before you can evict. The
Right.
problem is if you have a $600 a month tenant, you've got to wait 3 months. And so, there's been some little wins along the way that have happened, not tied to AGLA, but that have been positive and impacted some of the issues we're facing here in LA. So these are just two examples
Great
of
examples.
advocacy. Yeah, three examples. Well, we weren't in on that San Francisco, but it plays into the advocacy we're engaging in here in LA. So, fighting at the state level, getting that pet bill scrapped, That was
Yes.
that was AAGLA. That was our lobbyist working with AAGLA board members or state board committee.
Congrats on that. You guys should I put? Do you guys do you put press releases out and things like that when such like, hey, we won this thing you didn't even know we were battling for?
Well,
You can thank us later.
we need people that understand marketing and podcasts to be a part of the board. And we need a high and total PR change. And what I understand, some people have time that other property managers don't have.
Time is relative. it's where you put your priorities, right? To me, this is a priority to me because this is my the podcast is beachfront property management, my company. It's we don't advertise here. This is our advocacy to get like the word out. There's so much. I think it started with like how brokers in real estate. I don't want to crucify brokers, but just how real estate agents were very close guarded with their books of business from the old days when people would just take and steal and all those kinds of things. I think that kind of started a culture back in the 80s somehow that's moved forward into constricting of information flow. It's not like a radical transparency kind of or like industry. It's more of like hey, I know something somebody else doesn't, so I'm going to keep it close to my vest. And I was like, I came in like, I want to shatter that. Like, let's dispel that. That's old, wrong thinking because we all are pro real estate. If you own a building, you're pro real estate. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, center, otherwise, like I'm a libertarian by whatever you're registered by because I pro real estate. I just sit where I'm policy, not politics, and libertarian. I had to register for something just to say I'm not just a hypocrite.
I think libertarians are more socially acceptable in California. Then if you aren't going to be a Democrat, then you can at least be a libertarian because you're pro. You would definitely be. There are pro policies that line up, so it's a safe party to be a part of. If you're like, I'm not going to be in, that's a great party.
Right, everyone's gone so either so far left they've gone right, or so far right they've gone left. Sometimes I'm just like, geez,
and they meet in the middle somehow.
Yeah, they come back around. Yeah.
You'd think about it, right? Who was the first person that proposed universal income? That was Richard Nixon. Big government Democrat. Right. And you think of pro tax cuts, JFK. You can't, who started the EPA? Nixon. Who got rid of the ozone? Reagan. And so you these policies and these positions just swap back and forth. And I believe that dialogue is just really important. And so you've got, you just sort of sit and you learn these things and policy, like you said,
policy, not politics, right?
I just sort of laugh. I'm like, modern Democrats like a big government Republican on some things, and modern, Republicans like a old school Democrat. It just they rotate. You can't. That's why policy.
Right. That's why you go policy. Right. Exactly. That's where I think AAGLA and organizations such as yourself and CA is so important because you can cut through the politics and hear the signal through the noise. Like what's actually going to affect us? Doesn't matter who wrote the thing or who's pushing it or not pushing it. It's like, how is it going to affect the end user? The bottom line of that mom and pop who's retirement is contingent upon that $1,000 a month, right? Or the accumulation of it. Like, where does the buck stop?
If it isn't even $1,000 a month, if you have a thousand units, you employ 20, 30 people. And if you
and
if you put that person out of business, you're not killing mom and pops. It's the equivalent to having 7 or 8, 30 people across 1,000 units. What's that? That's 33 units each. That's a mom and pop. That's the money you're taking away. So when you say, "Oh, you're a big owner, we can't do it," no, those big owners pay money. They put food on the table. It's the equivalent to 10 30 mom and pops across that portfolio for who they feed. So this large versus small dichotomy has to be broken out of. And I have
That's a good point.
Benefit of this Zoom call because I now have my argument for that. Thank you.
You are welcome. As I said, there needs to be more of this where it's just letting everybody know what is it that their associations or leaders in the industry are doing. Because it's so, like you said, it's hard to explain sometimes because some of it's strategy. You don't want everyone to know before the time has come to know. Right? But just the fact that you have a play against rent control, because we all know it's unconstitutional. And when you ask, you're like, well, this is a capitalist country. why can we be told? Why are we being told what we can charge? Right? No one tells Nike what they can charge for Air Jordans. People just pay whatever they charge, and if they pay $300 for the shoes, Nike charges $300 for those shoes.
Probably my most progressive policy is if it is unconstitutional and I were to be progressive, just speaking a little differently, I would move all rent control units to easements on the property because that is constitutional. And
So,
you can put an easement restriction on a property at any time. That's completely legal. And
right?
so if the city incentivized easements, you wouldn't lose rent control units if it ever got constitutionally overturned. So
I see.
yeah, so the cities, let's say that a case does make it and the Supreme Court rules it unconstitutional, then the cities are going to lose all these rent control units and these tenants are going to be out for the count. If the cities were to convert to easements, but you have to give a concession to get that sign off. You can't
Right.
force it. So at least now every building can negotiate for themselves,
Right.
which is them fair, and they would have to trade something off. But
Which makes it fair.
which makes it fair. And that is a true win-win situation, not the way it is right now.
I love that. I love that you had a response for that, for like this, the backlash that would come from that, because we know rent control doesn't work, but this type of rent control doesn't work, right? There's a hybrid approach to where choices can be made, and right, I think that's what you're coming about. Why not just like blanket? This is it. This is all we can be, and you're succumbed to this AB 1482 that nobody voted on. It was just decreed by Sacramento during COVID, kind of sneakily, in my opinion. Just kind of came out, and hey, everybody's got to do it now. It was under an emergency order, and now it's here. And if people don't think wasn't intentionally planned, they never think coming, because that was real. Not too much of a coincidence that it was COVID. We're all in lockdown, and now this bill. Right? It comes up out of everywhere.
Got another one. Well, and we're fighting, but
is another one coming? I thought Prop 34 was going to shut that thing down.
No, LA is working on something right now. There's a moratorium. I think you've seen the alerts.
Mm-hmm.
To put a moratorium on evictions for a year due to the fire.
Was there a meeting yesterday? Council meeting? How did it go?
Just some back and forth. It just wasn't looking promising. That's probably that was my takeaway at the moment. We were there advocating, but if you have any connections in city council, you need to call them.
In city council, because it's always the city council there's that problem. The strangeness of the LA City Council and how much power they have is unlike other cities.
I'm going to be very kind and say they're good people with big hearts, and they want to do what they think is best, and the policies they establish or they're issuing, they don't. All stakeholders are not taken into consideration. That would be my constructive feedback.
So that's a great question. That's a great point. How do we get in touch with the city council? Is it literally just sending mass emails to these guys and giving them calls? Like, what does that look like?
They have legislative days.
Mm-hmm.
So you can meet them on their days at their office where you can do meet and greets, build relationships. Very important.
Legislative days, almost like office hours, like a professor at a university.
That's right. You want to meet them when they're there. That's probably the best way to do it. And that's what I now think that's the safest way to meet them, because with the anti-tenant anti-landlord hordes showing up, and I put that graciously because they aren't really tenants, some of them, in the cities they show up to.
Right. And how do we know they're not being paid by a lawyer to be there?
They're being paid.
For sure.
Can't do that all day and not make any money. And then they have to go pay rent somewhere, and they're putting their poor landlord through.
Let us know. We have a lot of volunteers on our side of things that we're happy to help crash the other way.
Yeah.
We met with you guys. I think it was with Dan down in Buena Park when they were trying to, the very first rumblings of their rent control, kind of an inspection in Buena Park that they were trying to put through the city council. We showed up with like 32 people with orange T-shirts on, and I don't know if that was the Orange County AAGLA. I'm sorry, that was right? Or you have Orange County chapter of AAGLA, I believe.
We
Is
do.
it?
We do.
Right, I'm going to make sure I'm not speaking incorrectly.
Yeah.
Right, and they somehow they got in wind of the
AAOC.
yeah, right, the AAOC, and Buena Park was having a city council meeting, and it was like the very first step towards something in more involvement, more regulation by the city on landlords, and we just crashed it with 30, 40 people and read into the microphone for just filibustered, really filibustered for like
You
three
can't do
hours.
that
Well,
anymore.
in Buena Park, they did. Everyone could have a comment. It can only be 1 minute. We can run, and they read it into the microphone for the next 2.5 hours. We sat there and read our statements in on record, and the mayor was like, "Okay, this sounds like a bigger issue than it is. Then we need to study this a lot more. It's going back way back to staff." And we were just like, "Hey." But I think that should be done here as well, right? I mean, right? It's not it couldn't hurt.
It can't hurt. No, it would be great.
Oh, and so, and wrapping up here, the last question: what trends do you see shaping the multifamily sector in the coming, like, in the near term, like 2 to 3 years? Like, we got the Olympics coming, right? That's 4 years away, and that's going to change the city in a way that I'm not sure everybody's aware of, because we're going to have this whole influx of everything. And that's not so far away. So in the next 4 years, what do you see coming through multifamily sector? Just an opportunity, or watch out for, a warning?
I wish I had a bigger vision of what's coming. I think we're going to have technology changes that are drastically going to change our business, AI, that's going to have major impact. I think we're going to be pushed towards owners of small mom and pop buildings, right? Consolidating. A lot of this legislation is
That's
going to
it.
make drop prices possibly of buildings. Uh, Maybe not on a macro level, but there could be some consolidation. That's really my big concern is I don't know how mom and pops are going to survive.
Right.
Uh, they will because of their entrepreneurial spirit, but it's going to keep getting difficult. I am not, in terms of our city council, in terms of our legislators, it's going to be the status quo in terms of anti-landlord sentiment unless we can make a big change. There are going to be more laws and more restrictions passed that make this job more intense, that get more got yous,
Mm.
unless we can actually make a change in the next 4 years. The amount of bills we have to fight every year, 15 bills related to
Wow.
on the state level get combated every single year.
Wow.
And it isn't stopping. It isn't stopping. So in the next 4 years, just assume you're going to have two bills anti-landlord every year
Wow.
restricting our business unless we really start making a change. And I don't mean to be bleak. On the positive side, that's on the legislative side. On the positive side, I do believe that I am I'm just going to be optimistic and hopeful that I think we might actually get a legislative win. I'm hoping one day we'll get a legislative win as rent control proliferates in other areas. We're going to start getting appellate courts having disagreements,
Mm.
which are going to start really refining this issue because we've only really had rent control in California and New York and maybe a few other municipalities throughout the US, not enough spreading that the Supreme Court has to really drill down the issue critically. And so I'm hoping that on a court basis, we may start seeing, eventually within the next 4 years, we'll get some change on that. Maybe some good, maybe a few good cases our way. It hasn't been that great so far, but we do believe, due to Justice Thomas, that there might be an angle on that we need to really, that we are actively pursuing. AAGLA is participating in a larger move on that. So that's the macro. On the micro, in terms of municipalities, we've got a lot of local fights to take on, and that's coming along. But I really do think that we can change our image, and I think that if we are willing, if we can if we can really do a PR push, that worked well in New York. They did a big PR push. If we can really change the
Was it
image.
the AGLA sister
Yeah,
organization in New York?
New York. They did a PR push and it really changed the image of apartment owners. And
Really?
I think that there are proactive steps that AGLA has taken, can take, and will take to change the image of owners, because we are not that mean, nasty landlord. We're business owners running a business, providing a good product based off the financial viability of the asset at hand without subsidies from the government. And
Correct.
therefore, we have limited resources. And if we need to resolve issues, our tenants need to really understand that those limits and appreciate and really go back to a not them, us, but how can we work together to resolve and address issues?
Correct. Because housing is a problem, right? And that's a problem for everyone.
That's right.
Residents, landlords, legislation. Like there is in California a big housing problem. So it's almost a oxymoronic what you'll see coming out of like Sacramento. They're like, build ADUs, but you can't lease them out for anything. You can't release them out for market. It's like, they relax the ADUs and get rid of parking, and that's all great. But then you can't bring them to market, and they're going to be rent controlled. So you're like, yeah, right. It's at odds with it. With itself.
Stuck by 5% plus CPI. I think that's
right. Right. But it's any kind of cloud on that. They were talking about new construction when they were bringing in. I think it was Prop 33 was going to cover that. Even if you built something new, it'd be you'd come in at a ceiling or whatever market is, and then after that, no more. You can raise it and couldn't change it. And that's such a disincentive when it's so hard to build here anany
Yeah,
so we are the providers of housing, right? We're here to help people be housed. we need tenants. We need residents.
We need blue collar housing.
Right.
We don't need luxury housing.
Oh, and that's all you can build here.
Housing. We need blue collar housing, and blue collar housing.
100%.
Market rate assets that are financially feasible to build, because you can only build two assets in California, luxury or affordable. Affordable costs more than luxury. The profits are in the luxury. So no one's going to build blue collar housing because there's no money in it because of the disincentives of policy and the construction requirements and all these different things. So there's a huge advocacy that needs to happen for blue collar housing. And I say that graciously,
Right.
It is a big need, and we are not building it. We're building affordable, we're building luxury, but we aren't building blue collar. And that's a market rate function. And our
100%.
mom and pops are the true blue collar housing providers.
Right. Because they're the owners of the 1960s, 1970s buildings that renovate and make those blue collar places not get torn down. Because if you tear it down, you're going to build something smaller or something huge in luxury, which is good. Price it out of the market for most people, right? It's there's such a demand, and it's not going away. It's getting worse as inventory dwindles and the supply is no longer being delivered. You probably saw the recent stats. 2024 was like the lowest on record of construction permits being pulled in all of the U.S. and L.A. was way in there. And like builders don't want to build; they're not pulling permits. I mean, in 2 years we're going to be another rent thing, or another rent price ceiling of. I mean, it's good in a sense from a landlord perspective, but it's not good for the macro sense of everything. It's not a good up. We're doing these spikes, and then rents go up, and policies come out, or rent laws come out, and then they go down.
If we weren't cash flow sensitive, our owners weren't cash flow sensitive, and they were equity sensitive, they would have sold their buildings 20, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The policies, that's the nuance of that. So if there's no cash flow, no one's going to build.
Right.
And they've constricted cash flow so much that no one's going to do it. Cash flow is king, and they basically cut off cash flow.
And we see that, and that was evident in the last report I saw, the economic report from 2024 on construction permits being pulled. No, you said it. No one's going to, and they didn't. No permit. There was since before 2000, below 2009 levels of permits being pulled. So that means in 2027, there's not going to be much being delivered. So demand's going to be going up. Olympics are going to be coming. Demand's going to be going up even more. And where are we? Right?
Policy. Bad policy.
Exactly. Bad policy, right? So,
and you know what? they want it, run it, and own it themselves anyways, they won't be able to operate the buildings. They can't even hire the personnel to operate the buildings like an owner mom and pop can.
No. Right. They usually want to sell it to like a PE or something like private equity firm, and then they're going to go hire a property management company.
Yeah,
Right. And it's,
you can't
and
do
it,
it.
yeah, you can't. And I know builders that are having a hard time selling it because of every kind of reason in the world. Mansion tax for one. Is that one? I mean, is
Yeah,
that,
they just shot themselves in the foot. If you want to grow revenues, you don't tax the people and you don't demonize people. You don't demonize the people who generate the revenue. You
right.
grow your economic base through pro-business policy. You don't raise minimum wage because it doesn't increase purchasing power, right? The goal is
Right.
to increase purchasing power, not to grow it. But I'll leave you with this thought. In a state that has too much debt and a deficit, and in a city that, with obligations, financial obligations, what better way to decrease the value of their debt than to raise minimum wage? It really isn't to increase purchasing power of the local
Um,
of Californians. It's really just a way to minimize, get more dollars in so they can get more debt. And it's a self-serving destructive process. And all they're doing is getting communities that don't understand the significance of the power of purchasing power, the power of increasing the how much you can buy with your dollar, and losing that because they have bills to pay, and they've got deficits, and they've got loans, they've got debt that's out. What better way than to raise minimum wage? They get more tax dollars and they can offset their debt and do more borrowing.
and they get more votes that way.
It's sadly it's a self-destructive process that's going to catch up. That's why this state and states with this philosophy have deficits. It
100%.
can't be anti-business. And that's not me being political at all. It's just me
No.
understanding cash flow from owning and operating a property management company and a bunch of little buildings.
And
And
being an expert in the financial markets as well. I mean, you've seen the financial side of it, and you've seen the blocking and tackling and property management front lines of it. And you're just stating what basic economics.
yeah, I want people to buy more. I want my tenants to be able to afford housing. We want our tenants to be happy. We want
Of
them
course we do.
to fix, but yeah. Well, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes, we have, and that will bring us here to the last thing. I got 6 quick questions for you, Matt. Matt, and for the rapid fire round, everybody goes through this, I'm just gonna ask you a question. You say as much or as little as you like, and I'm going to try to be quiet, which is my biggest challenge. Are you ready, Matt?
Yep. Bring it.
What's the best real estate advice you've ever received?
Always look out for the best interest of your client, period. Owners will tell, and that's what keeps clients.
What personal habits help you stay focused and productive?
I read my Bible for 15 minutes a day to try to get up to 30 or an hour if I can. Reading for 15 minutes helps me manage my ADD, ADHD, and focus. It increases my critical thinking. So I would encourage anybody to read for 15, 30 minutes a day, no matter what you read, because it actually helps.
Love that. What is the most impactful professional development book or resource you've read?
I've already said it. It's my Bible. There's one in business that I love, that you don't let the workman go home without his coat. And if he goes home, he's going to say something, and the big man upstairs is going to get you into trouble. So pay your bills. That's one. And then number two, be gracious and truthful. Truth is the most powerful tool I have as a property manager. And truth is essential. And you just got to be kind with it because it can be a sledgehammer. So those two principles have been one for operations, the other for engaging with tenants.
What's a skill you wish you had mastered earlier in your career?
I'm still mastering it, but finding ways to incorporate information or activities that are beyond my bandwidth at this time. That doesn't mean exponentially stressing myself out, but understanding that my bandwidth should not limit opportunities or engaging in activities or events or ideas just because it isn't in my sphere of knowledge or what I'm technically engaging in. And that isn't engaging everything, but having a system or approach to understand something's out of bandwidth and to process it.
Where would you be if you could manage multifamily assets in any other region outside Southern California? A little blasphemy here, but where would you be? If not here, where?
No, that's a great question. Where do I want to live? I'd love to have villas in Italy. I'd love to have some row homes in London. I'd love to be in that little place, and I'd love to be in the countryside in France. I'd love to be on the beach in Spain. Nice to have a building in Lisbon, have a building in. It doesn't matter to me. The question isn't where to own, but where to live.
Love that. Life, build where you live or buy where you live. And last question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned as a business owner?
Don't quit when you hit a problem. Lean into it. When you lean into a problem, you innovate, you create, you become dynamic. The problem eventually becomes you will not always be bigger than you get bigger than it. And I think as an entrepreneur, there are days you wake up and you have obstacles ahead of you. And some days you could jump the hurdles, and some days you just you just run into a wall, but you can't stop. You keep moving forward because that's how you get creative, that's how you innovate, and eventually you'll find a solution.
Love that. Love that answer. And that brings us to the end of our inquisition here, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. I absolutely enjoyed this. I've learned so much about AAGLA and the CA. I truly was the reason why I asked the different questions that I told you at the beginning. Like, we changed the question a little bit. I'm like, I really think I want to learn about AAGLA and CA, because you ask other owners, they're like, well, I'm not sure which and how and where. So hopefully this is the beginning of something that we can help promote the movement, put it that way. Because just one thing you said, and I'll leave it and we'll end with this, is the fact that AAGLA has the connection to NAA, and then so you got local, state, national. And the fact that owners are wondering, like, when's this rent control thing going to get to the Supreme Court? That one thing you said, that you're working on something, you got an edge, that is the number one reason I think I would put all of our units that way. Because to support that, I think is our biggest advantage, would be to get that to the Supreme Court to hear it so that it could become fair. Whatever rent control, whatever that sounds like. Because right now, fair is not even in the vernacular of rent control. It's just everything says it's wrong, but yet we still keep putting it on places. Like all economic studies, everywhere, and anything. So it's like, let's get back to logic here, and let's get back to some fairness.
Hey, bloodletting used to be medicine, so
and leeches as well, right?
Right. Society hopefully will say there's a better way to do this, and
100%.
We can bring that to light, and with honesty and integrity and truth, really hit that out of the park and show, hey, there is a better way to do this. Let's do it together. We aren't adverse. We're on the same team.
All right. Well, that is a wrap, Matt. And just for the sake of the show, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in AAGLA or you're knowing more about your property management services? What's the easiest way to get in touch?
They can. I will give you my information, and they can call me on for management on myself for AAGLA. We could refer them to the website, and they can get involved. They can register there. They can also call in the office. We have great staff at AAGLA. And it's
someone answers the phone. That's awesome.
Yeah, they do, but they get busy. We get a lot of calls during COVID. We got a lot of calls. I mean,
I bet
it's like a winter storm. Good luck reaching an airline on a winter storm type of thing. During COVID, it was like. So don't judge us, please.
No, just the fact that you got somebody there trying to answer the phone, I guess.
No, we have great staff, and they're really good at guiding and helping. And even me, when I started my business, I used them faithfully, and they were really good, really good.
Well, thank you, Matt. And that is a wrap.